In the last video, we discussed multiplying monomials, and then I explained how to multiply binomials for this very simple problem up here. And then I reminded you, hopefully, of the mnemonic device, FOIL, F-O-I-L, to remind yourself how to distribute when you're multiplying two binomials. So now we're going to apply that for all these problems down here. So let's do it. So for the first one, I have 4x minus 3 times 2x plus 7. I should double check that. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we need to multiply. So FOIL, first, outers, inners, last. So you start with the first. That's 4x times 2x. 4 times 2 makes 8. Well, actually, you know what? Let me write it out just one more time. 4x times 2x plus 4x times 7 minus 3 times 2x minus 3 times 7. First is right here. Outers is right here. Inners and last. Now notice the minus sticks with that 3, right? So this one became a minus 3 and this one becomes a minus 3. Now I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably never going to show that intermediate step again. It's annoying. It's in the way. And you don't really need it as an intermediate algebra student. But I'm going to do it just this one time. So that gives us 8x squared plus 28x minus 6x minus 21. And then we combine like terms. 8x squared plus 22x, take away 21. And there we go. All done. And hopefully you can see why we might not want to do that middle step all the time. I mean, it's just really long and tedious, and it's not a hard problem to do otherwise. All right, next one. 4x minus 3 times 4x plus 3. All right, so that's equal to, now let's start doing this in our head. First, you're going to take 4x times 4x. That's going to be 16x squared, because x times x, you add the powers, x times x is x squared. Outers is 12x. That's 4x times the 3. Inners is a minus 3 times a positive 4, so that's minus 12x. And last is minus 9. That's going to be equal to, oops, hold on, 16x squared minus 9. 12x and minus 12x all cancel, right? They disappear because when you have something and you take away that exact same thing, it's gone. All right, done with that one. Next. There it is. Okay, so the smart move on this one is to FOIL this out first. You don't have to do it that way, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to multiply all of this out first. So I'm going to have 2 in front, and I'm just going to figure out what everything else is. So first is 15x squared, because 3 times 5 is 15, and x times x is x squared, minus 12xy minus 10xy. Okay, so let's see if that makes sense, because 5 times a negative 2 is minus 10, x times y is xy. And the other one, 3 times a negative 4 is negative 12. And then last, plus 8, because minus 4 times a minus 2 is plus y squared for that one, because y times y is y squared. So this is equal to 2 times 15x squared minus 22xy plus 8y squared. That's equal to 30x squared, because you got to distribute now. 30x squared minus 44xy plus 16y squared. Oops, 165. That's not right. There we go. Oops, sorry. Hold on one second. There we go. Got the box in. Next. 3x plus 2 squared. Now here's one where I'm actually going to do an intermediate step because I want to remind you of something. 3x plus 2 times 3x plus 2 is equal to 3x plus 2 squared. What you don't want to do, and what a lot of students do, is they go 3x squared is 9x squared, and then 2 squared is 4, and say they're done. But that's not correct, because when you're taking something like this and you're squaring it, you're multiplying it by itself. So write that intermediate step out. I mean it. All right, now we FOIL. Firsts would be 3x times 3x, which is 9x squared, plus outers is 3x times 2, which is 6x, inners is 6x, and last is 4. Right, there's our distributive property. And then we now combine like terms. And we're done. Don't forget. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a note. Don't forget to write. There we go. Write it out. Made a note to ourselves. Speaking of writing it out, we're going to have that same issue on this one because, again, we've got this parentheses squared business. So I'm going to put 3, and I'm going to put 5x squared plus 1 times 5x squared plus 1. Oops, plus 1. All right, and just like the last one, I'm going to actually figure out what's going on inside those parentheses first, and then I'm going to multiply by 3. So I'm going to start by distributing this part. So 5 times 5 would be 25. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th because you add those powers. Plus 5x squared plus 5x squared plus 1. Okay, so that's equal to 25x to the 4th plus 10x squared plus 1. Now I'm going to distribute that 3 out. So that's 75x to the 4th plus 30x squared plus 3. And I think we're good. Done with that. All right, now last but not least, hold on one second there. There we go. All right, last but not least is this one, and this is big. So there's a couple ways you could attack this problem, but the smartest way to do it is to notice what's going on here with these two. Do you see how they're identical except one's plus and one's minus? We're going to learn what that is in a bit. They're called conjugates, right? So what happens when you multiply conjugates? Well, you already did it. You did it right here with this one. Let me make that bigger so you can see it. So with this one, you can see you had 4x minus 3 and 4x plus 3. They're conjugates of each other because they're identical except one's a plus and one's a minus. And look what happens. There's no middle term, right? It ends up canceling. So that's what we're going to do down here. And it's not the only way we could do it, but it's a lot smarter to do it that way first. If we attack this part right here, that'll work well for us. So let's multiply it. So first is going to be 25x squared. Then we're going to have 5x times 2y, so that's plus 10xy. That's your outers. And then your inners is minus 10xy, because negative 2 times positive 5 makes negative 10. And then minus 2 times plus 2 is minus 4y squared. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, Lana, that does not look any easier. I know, but it will be in a second. Give me a minute. Because what's going to happen is this one right here and its compatriot, right there and right there, disappear, right? So that gives us 25 plus y squared times 25 minus y squared, or minus 4y squared, excuse me. Haha, right? So with that gone, it leaves us 25x squared minus 4y squared. And then this one is still sitting right here. We haven't done anything with it. And now we distribute again, right? So 25 times 25, that's 625, x to the 4th, because x squared times x squared, you add the powers, minus 4 times 25 is 100. So minus 100 x squared y squared. That's, oh, it's plus, sorry, because plus 4 times plus 25. And then hopefully you can see it, but the next one's going to be minus, right? So there's outers, there's inners, because minus 4 times positive 25 is plus or minus 100. And then minus 16, because 4 times 4 is 16, y to the 4th, because you're going to add those powers. And again, look at these two. They're gone, right? Because you have 100 and minus 100, they disappear. These were conjugates of each other again. Look, this one's a minus, this one's a plus, and otherwise they're identical. So that gives us 625 x to the 4th minus 16 y to the 4th. And we're done. So it's pretty ugly in terms of the number of steps you got to take, but none of them were hard because everything kind of kept dropping away, right? All done. And while I'm on the subject, I should probably go up here and put the slashes in these ones too, because 12x and minus 12x canceled, right? And that's how we ended up with 16x squared minus 9. All right, so now let's do this problem. We've got f of x is equal to, oh, hold on, let me type it up. There it is. Okay, so f of x was equal to x squared minus 3x plus 1, and it's asking us to find f of a minus 4. So where there's an x squared, I'm going to put in a minus 4 instead. So it's going to be a minus 4 squared minus 3 times a minus 4 plus 1. So you're thinking, well, we're done. No, not quite. Because unfortunately for you, you're in an algebra class, which means you're going to have to simplify. Them's the breaks. So we're going to start off by noticing right here, this one, you should have little alarm bells going off in your head. When you see a binomial squared like this, or actually anything in parentheses with more than one term squared, you need to write it out. So we're going to write a minus 4, and then we're going to write another one, a minus 4. So that's that first part. Now this part right here we could probably distribute right now. That's minus 3a plus 12 plus 1, right? Because minus 3 times a minus 4 makes plus 12, and then I still have this plus 1 sitting right out here. All right, well, this part in here is a binomial times a binomial, so you're going to have to distribute that out. So first is a squared. These are not conjugates because one's a minus and the other one's a minus, so it's not going to cancel like those other ones. So it's minus 4a for outers, minus 4a for the inners, plus 16. And then this back part right here. So all of this is just to do that part. And then this just sits there, minus 3a plus and plus 13. I'm going to combine these two numbers together right now and get it done. All right, so now let's kind of simplify out and we're finished. So it's a squared. Now we got a bit of a mess going on here. I've got a minus 4a right here, and then I've got another minus 4a right here, and then I've got a minus 3a right here. Well, they're all like terms. So minus 4 minus 4 minus 3 is minus 11a, and then plus 29 because I can add the two numbers in the back, right? 13 and 16. And now you're finished. All right, I think I have time for this last one. G of x is equal to negative 2x plus 3 squared plus 4. So we're going to write that in standard form, which basically means you got to FOIL it all out and kind of combine like terms. Basically what we just did for the last problem, to be honest. All right, so let's start with, remember, whenever you see a binomial or a trinomial, anything with a plus or a minus squared, you're going to have to write it out. So it's going to be x plus 3 times x plus 3 plus 4. All right, so that's equal to negative 2. Now we got to take the time to figure out what this part is, what this multiplication is. So because order operations, multiplication comes before you can start adding. So x plus 3 times x plus 3, that's x squared plus 3x plus another 3x, that's outers plus inners, plus 9. And we're going to add 4 to that. All right, so that's negative 2 times x squared, oopsie, not that, x squared plus 6x plus 9, and I'll add 4 to the end. That's negative 2x squared minus 12x minus 18 plus 4. You're going to have to distribute that negative 2 to each one of these items in the parentheses. And then we just combine like terms at the end, and we're all finished. This is negative 2x squared minus 12, not underscore, minus 12x minus 14. And we are all finished. All right, done with that. So these two problems are actually quite similar. It's just this one has the letter A in it and this one has X. All right, I'll meet you back here for the last video where we're going to do some harder polynomials when there's more than just two terms. All right, I'll see you back here then.